This video is about the cube, more specifically the dark cube or the black cube. So right here is the dark cube in the Atomic Museum, the dark cube behind me, Heisenberg's race for the bomb.
This is a big chain of uranium cubes. That cube behind you over there,
Let's take a look at it. This is the Heisenberg cube.
that came out of this chain.
Okay.
That's the real.
That's an actual one.
That's 99% pure uranium-238.
And this is the cube right here.
That's it. You're looking at it. Weighs about 12 to 15 pounds.
So, what does it do? What does one of these cubes do?
That's what's used in the reactors.
A lot of people may not know this, but when the Nazis were trying to get an atomic weapon, there was a race for the atomic weapon, and under Oppenheimer here in the United States, we got to a nuclear weapon first. But Adolf Hitler and the Nazis were also trying to get an atomic weapon.
Heisenberg was Hitler. I call him Hitler's Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
He was in charge of the nuclear program for Hitler to try to develop an atomic bomb.
Right.
And believe it or not, a lot of people don't believe it, they never got the atomic weapon.
The Germans.
The Germans didn't.
The Nazis would be able to.
This is the Nazis.
And they were using specifically these dark cubes. He had 664 of them. Perhaps he was too short of 666. Just laying it out there. How close was he, Hitler? And here's an image of what he had.
He never got this to a chain reaction.
Okay.
He had 664 of these cubes on it.
Yeah.
And so this is hanging over a heavy water pit. But he never got a chain reaction.
I just noticed here, so he had 664. Maybe he was only too short. That would be 666 if you went. I just found that interesting.
Yeah.
Now, a cube in and of itself, no matter what color it is just one of our geometric shapes. A three-dimensional, six-sided geometrical shape. That's what a cube is, all of its own accord. But the cube, if it's a dark cube or a black cube, can, not always, but can be affiliated with the god Saturn, or the sixth planet, just as it is a six-sided cube. Saturn is often interchangeable with the word Satan. Saturn also, if we go all the way back in time, during the times of the Akkadians and the Sumerians, would be affiliated with the god Enki. You had Enlil and Enki, like good cop, bad cop, to the ancient Sumerian Akkadian world, what would later become Babylon. Now, the black cube is seen often popularly in major pieces of artwork in large cities, like here behind me in Manhattan, and other locations, other major cities around the world, like these black cubes. In fact, King Og of Bashan, it's commonly written that his tombstone was a sort of a black, it would have been rectangular, but it would have been essentially a cube. And that black cube had fallen from the sky, like a falling star. Here, pictured behind me, this is a spiritual or claimed meditational or religious spiritual room in the United Nations. In the center of it is a black cube, it's a black cubish object, and it goes to an unnamed god in a kind of a bland trapezoid shaped room, a black cube for worship at the United Nations. Also, of course, infamously in the endless chain of the Hellraiser movies, the main character Pinhead that would come to drag one's soul to hell, then torture them. The nexus between the world of the living and the eternal damnation was with the cube, seen in Hellraiser's main character's hands right there. And of course here also is a cubed stone for the Freemasons, the Masonic temples, having the famous compass on it with the letter G, whatever that may stand for, on a cube. And others, most notably such as Islam, they have the Kaaba stone, which they believe takes the sins away, and they walk in circles around the Kaaba stone in Mecca. On the other end of the fence, you have intelligence agencies, notably Israeli intelligence agencies, named, and I'll be careful on this one, the dark, or I think more appropriately, the black cube. But a cube, though it may in some instances, not all, have just a geometric object, is what it is, one of our three-dimensional geometric objects. A cube may in many instances have occult symbolism or pagan symbolism to it, or dimensional, may also have symbolism that goes for the god Saturn, or the sixth planet. But a cube is, in all reality, it's just an object here in our reality, our three-dimensional reality that we live in. Now, a cube, if we were to take a cube and we were to unfold it into a two-dimensional reality, the cube would become, so this is a cube, like a Rubik's Cube is a three-dimensional object. It has 9 squares. 9 is another occult number, 3 on each strip. But like the 9th gate, well, if you take a cube, a three-dimensional object with 6 sides, and you were to unfold it into a two-dimensional object, you would, interestingly enough, get a cross. Now, a cross has comprised, this is the symbol of the Christian faith, would be the cross. Another dimensional object. A cross, a cube unfolded, makes into 6 squares. The diametric opposite of a dark cube might be a cross. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Here in my pre-flood book, I have a section that deals, we have sections that deal in these parts of the book with time, consciousness, space, and matter. After all, 6, right there, 6 in Hebrew would be the Vav, or 6, the number of man. In 6 days, God created, no matter what anyone wants to view those days as, in 6 days, God created the heavens and the earth, and on the 6th day, God created man. On the 7th day, God rested. Now, right over here, you have what Salvador Dali portrayed as Jesus on what is called a tesseract right here. A tesseract would be a three-dimensional object unfolded into a fourth-dimensional space. I tend to like the term higher dimensional space more than fourth dimensional, seems very limiting, but the concept is identical, that it's opening up into a higher or a fourth dimensional space. I have on this little chalkboard 2 different characters. So this right here, this is Tom, and this on this side is with the dress on, only had the color red. This is Sally. And they live in a 2-dimensional world. They live on this piece of erasable chalkboard, Tom and Sally. They are 2-dimensional characters. Now, Tom and Sally, in their 2-dimensional world, this is Tom and Sally's world right here. And I live in a 3-dimensional world. I have the benefit of this extra dimension, meaning that I can come up face to face with Tom or with Sally, and they don't even know that I'm there. More than this, if I were to take my finger and pass it through Tom and Sally's world, they would just see a circle open and close. In fact, they would probably only see a line get bigger and smaller. Take that a step further. Tom, he can't even see Sally as she is. You see, when Tom looks over at Sally, all he would see is a straight line. Tom cannot see these extra dimensions that I have the benefit of. In other words, Tom can't even see Sally the way that she is. Which brings up another question, because if God was living in a higher dimension, looking down on us, what are we covered with? What would God see when he looks from his higher dimension down at us? Cube is a three-dimensional object with 6 sides. And these are the dark cubes. And here's the town.
That's the same picture.
What he was doing, would it have worked?
Yes.
Could it have worked?
Yes, but he never finished the experiment. It never got to a controlled chain reaction.
Mm-hmm. Had he got it first, he would have won the war.
Well, we don't know.
Well,
we
he
don't
could.
know that.
It would have been closer.
He didn't get it.
And a cross is a cube unfolded, as if someone wanted us to understand these simple things. A cross made of 6 squares. So in Salvador Dali's famous painting of Jesus on the cross, but the cross is a tesseract. Tesseract is the higher dimensional object. He is essentially portraying that Jesus is the nexus for number 6, the number of man. Vav is the number 6 in Hebrew, is the nexus for man between not hell and earth, but heaven and earth. And these depictions, like I just showed you of Tom and Sally, are in this book. Again, I pose to you, what does God see when he looks down at us? Are we black cubes, or are we crosses? This is the atomic section of the museum here. As you probably saw this symbol even in the Back to the Future movies. Now, right over here is the Back to the Future car. X marks the spot. The symbol behind me, these are Hebrew letters that just scroll through. Sometimes I find it interesting where they fall. The Tav, the ancient symbol of the Tav, back there on the screen, Tav is the 22nd letter. There's the X, 22nd letter of the Hebrew alphabet. That just came up is the 7th letter. It is the Zion in Hebrew. The Tav is the 22nd, or the last letter. It is the cross. To be very clear what it is that I'm telling you, this behind me, this is modern Hebrew. It's comprised of 22 letters. This language begins, this X-looking symbol back here, this is actually the number 1. That's the Aleph. The Aleph, the number 2 is the Bet. This language behind me, this is where we get the word alphabet. Aleph and the Bet. If we come all the way down to the 22nd letter, it's going to be this symbol down here that in its ancient form will look like this cross. But in its modern form, this symbol right here looks kind of like a doorway, a gateway. And this little dot inside, well, that's actually a yod. A yod is a number 10. 10 is a universal number of completion. It's also the symbol right here for God himself. A little yod looks like a thought, an idea, the Spirit of God. A little yod just dangling between the gateway to reach in from heaven to earth. A little yod, which brings us to this symbol right here, this doorway with the yod inside, the modern form of the Tav that you see right there. There's the little yod coming through. That's the symbol for God himself coming through this doorway right here. Here's the Tav on the other side. This is the Tav in its ancient form, meaning sign or ancient mark. Here in its two-dimensional form, a symbol for man. Man, the sign or mark, the nexus, the X that marks the spot, coming forward in time, creates the gateway through back there, the Zion. Isn't it stunning how these numbers come up? Watch where this goes in a second. Becomes the doorway within which the Spirit of God, the Yod, God himself, reaches through from heaven to earth, through and to save the number 6, man. So here's the Back to the Future car. And it's known for, what did they have to grab in that movie? They had to grab the plutonium. You had to go 88 miles per hour. I always found that to be an interesting number. 8 in Hebrew is the number of new beginnings, so that'd be like a double of a new beginning. I love personally the number 88. And of course the license plate on the car that spun around in Back to the Future Part 1 was the license plate that said out of time. And over here you had the flux capacitor, and it makes the interesting shape of a Y. It's kind of a replica of what that looked like in the back of the car, the Y symbol. The Y would be a Vav in Hebrew. A Vav, the letter Vav in Hebrew, this is ancient Hebrew that I have on the back of the screen right here. 22 letters of ancient Hebrew. And we're going to count inward from the ancient Aleph. Here we go. Ancient Aleph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and number 6 right there. That letter looks a little like the Y, or the symbol of man, the flux capacitor in the Back to the Future car, the DeLorean. The number 6, the number of man, the Vav right there. There's 2 6s. There's my ancient form. Right here is my modern form. If we come from our Y, our flux capacitor that needs to go 88 miles per hour to go forward in time, our Vav, our symbol of the man, the number 6 right here. Well, if we were going forward in time, forward from the cross, and we wanted to pass through this doorway, this gateway within which the Spirit of God dwells. Well, I'd like to take my cross right here, my cross with the number 6, 6 squares on it. And I'd like to take this number 6, and I'd like to only go for the arms of the cross and move my 6 to right up here. You have 7 days in your week. In fact, everything here in our reality, our realm, goes round and round, round and round, round and round. Your clocks, your weeks, your years, your months, your days, round and round. On the 7th day, God rested. On the 6th day, God made man. On the 7th day, God rested. Well, the 8th day is always the new beginning, the number 8. 8 is the day that the Hebrews would circumcise the children on the 8th day. Said that Jesus came out of the tomb on the 8th day, the new beginning. Jesus was crucified on the 6th day, and then put into the tomb. He was in the tomb for the 7th day, just as God rested. And on the 8th day, he would come forth from the tomb. So this would be Friday, he's crucified on the cross. This would be Saturday, the 7th day. And this would be the beginning of the new week. Sunday, the 8th day. So Number 6, right there, crucified on the cross for man. 7th day, going through the tomb. And then on the 8th day, the new beginning, the stone would roll away, opening the doorway within which the Yod, the Spirit of God, would reach through. Now, why don't we just look at that one other way if we're going back and forward in time here. Man, created on the 6th day, the Vav, man is the number 6, passing through the ancient symbol of the Zion on the screen right there, the number 7, and making it to the ancient symbol of the Het, the new beginning. Now the Het, or the number 8, just like there were 8 people that came through that narrow doorway on Noah's Ark, there were 8 people entering a new beginning. Well, the Het right there, that symbol, that's where we today get our infinity symbol, is from the ancient Het, the number 8 right there. 6, Vav, our flux capacitor, or number of man. Zion, right there, the number of the day of rest. And then 8, right there, the infinity symbol, the gateway, the doorway between heaven and earth, the new beginning. And of course, in Back to the Future, to go back or forward in time, you don't just need the flux capacitor or the vehicle, the man. You also need to throw that puppy in hyperdrive and hit 88 miles per hour to go back in time. So you went from nuclear weapons to concepts that where you're throwing it in gear, and you got to have the electricity to hit the car, energize the flex capacitor, the number Y, hit your 88 miles per hour, and you are going back in time. And of course the plate said out of time. I want to make it very clear, I love the number 88. The number 8 in Hebrew, the Het, that's the number of new beginnings. It's also where we get our infinity symbol. 2 8s would be like a double portion. The cross came up. Would be like a double portion of that. I want to thank you for watching this presentation on the dark cube. A dark cube that would be very different from a cross. I believe it was the Lord himself that stopped. Adolf Hitler had 664 specifically of these dark cubes to make an atomic weapon against the United States. That's too shy of 666. I hold my case that I believe strongly that God himself has had his hands on this United States. I'm Trey Smith of God in a Nutshell. God bless every last one of you and your families on the other side of the screen.